What is the next major advance in the second millennium? Homeopathy. I am saying that confidently because in IIT we have sort of solved the riddle of homeopathy. In other words, what is actually in a homeopathic medicine? And I think this is the next major advance of the third millennium. Even if I say so myself. You will agree only if or when you try it. So what are we talking about? What is the uniqueness and novelty? As I said, the human dose is dramatically reduced from just 1 gram to 30 gram to a few milligram to 100 milligram. Now, I think sometimes these numbers don't mean anything to us. So let's put this in the perspective. What it means is that 1 kg of herb is enough for 10,000 patients per day. Or put it another way, for an average person on the whole, for the entire year, you will need 300 gram of oil which has 30 grams of herbs to cover the entire range of your preventive, curative and restorative problems. And it is user friendly, as you can see. All you have to do, it's a proper bottle. Just take a drop, lick it. Because of this, the palatability, you don't have bitterness problem, you don't have astringent problem. No child has ever refused this. We are giving it to our granddaughter since she was 6 months old, and this is the only one she takes most readily. Because she doesn't think this is medicine. Shelf life in oil is very long because there is no biological growth in oil, and chemically it's a relatively inert solvent compared to water. And as I tell, agro dose is very low, poultry dose is very low, and it works across the board. And the key to affordability is the extremely low dose. You can do any simple calculation, and which I have shown there. I mean, if you make them yourself, your variable cost per year will be maximum 150 rupees a year. And you can make it in your own kitchen, which means it's available, like Ajivai's Batwa, the good old days, this will be available to you at all times. You don't have to search for the herb when you have some problem. And it becomes sustainable and feasible. Look at numbers. India, in 2000, is supposed to have had 40 million diabetics, and by 2030, WHO says there will be 80 million. Now, if somebody says, hey, in fact, there was some article about the use of Vijay-Sar, that is Pterocarpus marsupium. Apparently, ICMA also did trials, but there were no takers. Why there were no takers? Because if I recall, the dose was 10 grams a day. Now, first of all, see the simple calculations. For 10 million persons, if you have 10 grams, that's 100 million grams a day. 100 million grams a day is 100 tons a day. Where will you get Vijay-Sar? Secondly, anybody can make the same extract, so why would a company be interested? So, it doesn't fit any current business model. So, although ICMR is supposed to have done this work and all that, it has not gone further at all. Now, as against that, if you reduce the dose to say 100 milligrams a day, I mean, it's obvious. Instead of 100 tons, you will need 1 ton. Now, so it suddenly becomes feasible, sustainable. You will not eliminate all the big trees in the forest as it is happening today, and so on. Or in various parts of India, there are some local folk medicine traditions about some herbs, and then normally the worry is if anybody discovers it, the herb will disappear. But with this dosage, it won't disappear. In other words, you can harness all those local traditions. In fact, somebody contacted me the other day from Malvan. They say, we have a plant, Tridax procumbens, which seems to work on diabetes. Now, he has sent me a small amount. I made an oil. Now, I told him, you send me at least 2 documented cases so that I will send you this oil and suggest to you what should be the initial dose. So, as soon as that comes, I will send him the oil. What I mean is, such things can be done. So, now, this is all fine. What do we do with it? Now, first of all, let's understand, if today I buy 100 rupees worth of a medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, manufacturing is only 15 rupees. Rest is marketing, advertising, various markups and so on and so forth. All I have done is I have reduced the 15 rupees to 1 rupee. But if I use the same business model, no other cost will be reduced. In fact, even if I told you, like I said, just boil garlic and onion, FDA will say this is not given in the old text, so this is new medicine, and they will ask me to get all the data, and the whole thing will die. In other words, this anybody tries to put through conventional business model will not go anywhere. It will die its natural death. Therefore, what do you need? You have to have a method by which you empower people. Now, here is one idea I have put forth. There can be other ideas, but here is one. So what I am thinking is a basic unit is a clinic. Okay. What will the clinic do? And one clinic can provide is adequate for 5,000 persons, as I will explain. So what will the clinic do? First, it will teach people to make their own as much as they can. For that, maybe we start a K-12 club. In other words, we don't ask people to make 40 extracts because they won't, but at least say a dozen, which will cover a lot of day-to-day problems. Choke nose, sinus, onset of painful throat, and so on and so forth. So that let them do themselves. For complex things, they still have to come to clinic. Clinic is to provide nidan and chikitsa. What is important and which is totally missing, clinic must do a lot to provide pathya advice. Both what to eat, how much to eat, when to eat, and what to eat less or not at all when you have inflammatory diseases. And maybe the clinic can provide a community kitchen. Like today in the city, you say, there are these ladies, you say, oh, give me 25 vada. So similarly, here a group can say, give me 1 liter of this oil. Now, I worked out, economics, a simple community kitchen, making 2 batches of 1/4 kilo each, working 300 days, will make enough of these oils to completely meet the requirements of 5,000 persons for the whole year. So you are talking of something very small. And the variable cost, including paying, let us say, 300 rupees a day for the 2 workers who work there, to a person on the average who gets from these will be only 200 rupees a year. Plus, to make it sustainable social model, okay, the clinic has other people, they are not going to work free, they need salaries and so on and so forth. So my estimation, additionally 300 to 600 rupees should suffice. But then, all this needs is a simple clinic, and this is scalable, because once there is a clinic that can be replicated in near smaller towns or in any other town, because that's it. You don't need any central manufacturing, nothing. Manufacturing is highly distributed, advice is highly distributed. And as I said, this has these other advantages. You can encourage use of local folk medicinal knowledge and so on and so forth. This is just one idea. But I mean, finally, only if this goes to people directly, this has the potential that we can have affordable healthcare. And there are other issues which we will not go into that. I mean, this is a little more long term. The central idea is a clinic which empowers people, which provides nidan and chikitsa, which provides a community kitchen, and which continually bombards people with pathya advice. I think, when somebody comes to me, I spend at least 1 hour. It's counseling on diet, but it is very aggressive counseling on diet. Because when you tell people, when you have skin inflammation, you should stop chili. They don't believe you. So you have to almost put the fear of God into their mind, or whatever you want to call it. Until then, they don't listen. They don't almost force them to try it for a week and see. And if they try even for a week, they know the benefits. Then at least half of them are convinced and they will follow. Now, I think something one should talk here about the so-called issue of side effects. I just got this book by, originally written by Vaidya Gokte and translated by Spark and published by Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. It's like a pharmacology of various herbs and all that. And the dosage and other information comes from that book. So what you find is that even in current conventional Ayurveda, you have different things. Say you use something very poisonous like Naxmo, Vamika, or Bachnag, aconite. The recommended doses of that are only 1 milligram. And the book clearly says higher doses will lead to convulsion, higher doses will lead to this. In other words, the side effects are very serious with overdose. They are not minor. Then you come to the next group, Chitra, Kman, mandar, guggul and so on. The book says half to 1.5 gram, but I know many people start having serious Ushna side effects beyond 100 milligram. In other words, it is well known, particularly chitrak and guggul and so on. Then we come to more run-of-the-mill, kuda, kutki, pepper and all that. Even these we know that high doses create problems. And then we come to rasayana. Generally the doses are larger, amla, guduchi, ashwagandha and all that. But even there large doses are not recommended. So now what I am saying is, there is nothing which has no side effects. If it has an effect, overdose has clearly a side effect. So now let's understand, what have I done? So what you see on the right is a typical curve. If there is 100 units of some useful activity, for a typical herb, as we increase the dose, as you can see, there is an improved benefit. I mean, there is a benefit. But beyond a certain dose, the curve starts going down and it can turn negative. This is what I call a hat-shaped curve or a bell-shaped curve in biology. It's a universal curve. Now what appears to have happened is when I make a super extract, the curve is shifted to the left. In other words, instead of, let us say in this case, 100 milligram per day where you get peak positive activity, I may get peak positive activity at 0.3 milligrams per day. And just as if you exceed 100 milligram by a factor of 3, if you exceed my dose by a factor of 3, you will also have side effects. That's what you have to understand, that's all. But now remember, I already made 100, so I have a pretty good idea where to start. When I first started, I didn't know. I thought 100-fold reduction was safe. It didn't turn out to be. But now I know that, initially you do 500-fold reduction. Now if it is known to be potent, initially itself you do 1,000-fold reduction and see. In other words, this is sort of proving. Now, before I come back to thanking various people, now this is some data. This is in cereals, wheat, rice. In all cases, what I use, when it says R2, it means 2 strength so-called. So 50 ml of R2 is 1 gram per hectare per spray of the herb. Okay? So we had these kind of results in wheat, in rice, in okra, in strawberry, in cotton, and much more in potted plant experiments in Ferguson. Now I must warn you about something. If somebody does a trial in a field where conditions are really optimum, you may not get this benefit. Because I am not saying we are changing any genetic anything. All we are saying is this will help you reach genetic potential. But if the control itself is extremely good, you may find this did not add to any benefit. This can happen. And this is also known that just, even if your optimum conditions otherwise, there is nothing which can increase that. Point is, most of the time conditions are not optimum and therefore these things are of benefit. Here is some sample data in cholesterol, what you can see. This was, I made a 1 milligram tablet and all we gave is 2 tablets a day. That means 2 milligram herbal dose per day. Just 2 milligram, please understand. And I just given one case of a male and a female in the first case the triglycerides were high which came down and also LDL came down in both cases in what, 2 months? Yeah, 2 months, 2 to 3 months. Okay. This is an important case. This person came to me, he had almost a complete total organ failure the previous year, already angioplasty. He was on peritoneal dialysis, 4 exchanges per day, and in spite of it the creatinine was 4.5. So I gave him something for the kidney actually. But he was also very heavy diabetic. In his own words, my lifestyle was such, lot of parties, lot of drinks, and that's why. And he was on 46 plus 26, that's how many? 72 units of insulin per day. Over the next 6 months, that 72 came down to 24 units. Came down to meaning his sugar started coming down and therefore they had to adjust the insulin dose. Actually, when he came to me, even with 72 units, his sugar was not normal. Okay? This is, I think, rather remarkable. And also from 4 CAPD, he came to 2. And still the creatinine from 4.5 came down to 2.5.